Probably most people in this room know something about the international class, but give you a sense of what it is and what these wonderfully opinionated, open, lively, diverse, thoughtful, playful people have begun, what journey they've begun with us. So people, the international class, this is the 6th class. They are joining about 50 other people from many countries, maybe 28 or 30. I always have to revise the list, but they're from all every continent but Antarctica. And they have come from villages and urban areas and large cities, small cities across the U.S. and around the world to, I'm not sure what, I'm going to tell you. I don't want to presume to speak for them. But they find us through the web, they find us through our writings, they find us through Performing the World, our biannual international conference, through recommendations from colleagues, all kinds of ways. And they respond to something in the recommendations they get and in what they read. I'm sure it's different for different people. The international class is probably unique in being open to anybody from any profession, with any educational background, from any country.
You're the first?
However, the beginning paragraph, or somewhere in the beginning paragraph, it says this is a 10-month course of study in activity theoretic, postmodern approaches with an emphasis on social therapeutics. So that is probably limiting in some way to the world of people who are in any profession, any country, and with any educational background. And so what we have done, so this is the first of 3 residencies. People come from wherever they are, and they are committing themselves in being accepted to the program and accepting the acceptance to coming to New York for 4 full weeks, leaving their jobs, their communities, their homes, their families, coming here for an intense period of study, and in between that, studying online with myself, Carrie Bowman, Chris Helm, Mark Silverman, and Lisa Farmer. So this week they have
performing your work.
and
Performing your life, performing people from.
oh, online, I was saying, those are the people online, right? So we've done a lot of things. We've had different sessions this week with myself, with Carrie, with Chris Helm, with from the All-Stars, Dan Friedman and Pam Lewis, with classes, revolutionary conversations classes that the Institute is holding, with Fred Newman, Lenore Fulani, and with Performance of a Lifetime with Kathy and David Ackman. So, without further ado, I'm going to start off and I'm going to ask them a couple of questions and then open it up to you to create the conversation. So, the most obvious and stage-setting thing we should do is introduce yourselves and say where you live or come from, or both if they're different, and a little bit about what you do.
You're not supposed to say that. I'm Livia Dasabais, and that's my family name. No, Melissa. Hi. Yeah, it's just a family name, Dasabais. So I was born in Venezuela. I grew up in Venezuela, and I come from a family that was very much in the heart of the revolutionary movement in the 60s in Venezuela. meaning they were in the left, or they are in the left, but some of them are not here anymore. I live in Montreal at the moment, and my professional life has been mainly, it has been in the arts, in the approach to the body and movement creation and performance. And what I've been always interested is in how to work with that in a social justice context. And so I am ecstatic to be here at the Institute to have found out about it, because it embraces these two great passions for me. And I will just leave it at that for now.
So my name is Richard Kotowich, and I live in Regina, Saskatchewan, which is in the prairie provinces of Canada, between Manitoba and Alberta. So our environs, the southern part of the province that I live in, Regina is a city of about 200,000, and it's 200,000 people, and it's about 110 miles from the American border, so the U.S.-Canadian border, and I never go there for some reason. It's really not a trip I make at all, because we live in Regina, and most of our points of reference are east or west, somewhat north, perhaps. The northern part of Saskatchewan is the Canadian Shield, so rocks and trees and water. But the prairies are very, as you might have heard, flat, but they're not entirely flat. There's gullies and valleys and rivers. So it's farming country, primarily, but manufacturing and a diverse economy, all the same in Regina. And Regina, there's two major cities in Regina, in Saskatchewan, Regina or Saskatoon. They're about 175 miles apart, and Regina is the capital, so it's kind of the government town. I grew up there on the north side, north of the tracks, so to speak, in a one-bedroom house with 10 siblings. I had two sisters sleeping in the bed there, two in that corner, and the house is about 850 square feet. So we were close family. I think, my father was Polish, and my mother Métis, or mixed blood, Cree and Scottish from the north, and he met her and married her, but he met her as a manager or clerk for the Hudson's Bay Company in the north, a place called Cumberland House, Saskatchewan, and it's in that northern part, kind of bush country that's up north. And brought her south to raise children in this one-bedroom house. So I'm not sure it was love. I think it was arrangement. But anyway, we grew up like that, close. And we actually, as we got bigger, there was two houses on the lot. So it was my brother and I went to live in what we called the shack, which was a unheated building next door, and I was second oldest, so there were many younger ones than me. And I left home when I was 21 after getting beat up for coming home after 12:30 at night. It's a long story, but anyway, it was a strict home, a Roman Catholic home. I served Mass till I was 17. I was educated by Jesuits, and that also was a strict upbringing, but they at least taught you to question authority and a sense of literature and history. So I went on to, when I finished grade 12, my colleagues, because they were on the south side, south of the tracks, were doctors and lawyers' sons, and they were going on to universities. So I found a way to go on myself after a year working in a steam laundry, and I'm going to go on too long if I go into space.
Just for now, skip to what you're doing now.
Okay, now I work in public health.
From the steam laundry.
From the steam laundry, yeah, and it's slavery all the same. But yeah, I work in public health. My title is Community Development Coordinator, Aboriginal Community Development Coordinator. I work with Aboriginal people and with mainstream. I work well, I think, in the mainstream organization, but it's not always easy. And I also do chair a board for community arts in the city called Commonweal. It's connecting artists and communities for social change. I serve on a National Aboriginal Council for HIV/AIDS, which advises on policy to the federal government. I have 4 children, 3 of which are now adults, and a 15-year-old that still lives with us at home, and a good wife. And obviously, who lets me go off to New York to be a learner for 10 days, and talks to me every night if I need to talk to her. So, and that's about it. I came because I want to learn. I've come to what appears to be dead ends in the community development work I do because of the lack of real leadership, and perhaps for the construction of community development. I kind of ask, well, what is this developed community we're working towards? I get no reply. And I'm instead directed to work on files on tobacco reduction and Aboriginal people. I don't know, I say, why do I get all the easy jobs? And inner city housing, quality improvement. So that's my world. It's a lot bounded by computer and communication and the sharing of ideas, and still inside me lives a community developer. So just wait till I get home. I'm going to write them a logic plan that they will not believe. Better stop now.
Oh my God, thank you, Ray. That's nice. I totally calmed down. Because I was nervous. Yeah. Well, I'm Helen Wandaba. I come from Uganda. Uganda is in East Africa on the map, the eastern side of Africa, and a country that is part of the East African Union. And I consider myself to be a self-made woman in every sense of the word, because I've never had anyone to look up to for anything. So that is why I think I'm a self-made woman and open to new possibilities. That is why I'm here, because I want to pick something from you and put it into a workable way to help me develop and also help my country, because it is an underdeveloped country, as they call it, but it is developed enough to have a person like me stand here and speak to you. That is brilliant and very wonderful. Okay, well, what I do, I have a project that I'm coordinating in Uganda that I started personally and have other people helping me, because I'm operating it under a church and non-government organization. The project name is International Power Center Children and Youth Ministry, to be specific. So I basically work with youth, and youth doesn't mean someone who is not 50. I mean, youth to me means anyone who is up to come and say, I'm strong enough to think or imagine or bring change to the world. I think you can be called a youth when you're 70, provided you have innovative, reasoning or something that can really make you powerful. And my kind of work is related with children. The children basically are children with disabilities, often due to HIV/AIDS. Most of them do have HIV/AIDS, so we kind of like have a program that is working with them to give them a reason to believe that that is not the end of it. Inability is not disability. You can be somebody, you can do something for yourself. You just don't have to hold yourself up and start looking for reasons why you have HIV, but understand that you have it and there is something you can do with yourself. So that is what we do basically, and then I coordinate the project with other people, like one of the people who was in the international class before, who is the person who directed me to come. and that is Peter and Suruga. We work together closely. We have a play that we are doing that annually, which is called Freedom Extreme, trying to undo or trying to put an end to cultural differences, because Uganda is also, much as we are all black, a tribalistic country. You cannot marry someone from the West, like I come from the ruling government now, which is the Western, and you cannot talk to someone anyhow, you know. You can just be on the street and you just can't greet each other. So we are trying to bring an end and a stop to that. And the only way to do that is not keep talking about it, going to school and studying like I'm a telecom engineer. It has nothing to do with development, because understanding mechanics cannot help you understand people. So that is how I consider myself to be someone who is trying to bring a difference or create meaning where there is no meaning, actually. Because when someone has gone to school, they believe, oh, I have a PhD, that is it, but what has it got to do with society? So that is what I'm trying to do, and basically that is what my organization does. We do have children with disabilities, orphan children, and the poor and vulnerable. Thank you.
Well, I'm Sarah Ali from Sudan. Just to give you a brief about my country, Sudan is the largest country in Africa.
You are going to tell me.
I thought it was okay. Do I have to be from Sudan? Okay. My name is Sarah Ali. I came from Sudan and from a family of 10. My father died 18 years ago. My mom is a single mom of 10. All of us are professional now. She's a great mother. My family came from West Sudan. We all hear about Darfur province. My family came from Zaire. We moved to North Sudan. And I went to the school Zaire. I went to medical school in Sudan. I graduated from Zaire. And after I started working as a physician, I lived the painful reality of my country, the legacy of war. We have the longest civil war in Africa for 60 years. And we have a genocide going on in Darfur. Underdevelopment, disparity, health disparities, and social injustice. My frustration brought me here in the US to find answers to how can I help back home. When I came here, like in early in 2003, the Darfur, our conflict in Darfur started. So I started to be an activist for my country, try to help back. And after rallying and writing and do interview, I got frustrated with the international community because I felt to solve the problem in my country. So we start creating the Darfur Rehabilitation Project. We think that we know what is good for our region, for our country. So we learn it from others, but at the same time, we work as consultants. We try to create solution to the problem in Darfur. And I joined them last year. We start working as a health department, try to create a project to help back, because the humanitarian system is not good. It doesn't reach the women and children that is in dire need for help. I'm still in the process of developing that, but at the same time I joined the International Institute because I think I will find answers for how to heal our community when we achieve peace agreement. Because the genocide destructs the social infrastructure back home in Darfur, and they really need to heal out. So by just providing humanitarian assistance for development without human development, we won't be able to achieve and to heal the community. That's the reason I'm here. And before that, I was working in community development and HIV and AIDS in Sudan. In Sudan and here, when I came here to United States, I stayed in for 3 years. I'm in New Hampshire, working in community development and with marginalized community and with immigrants. I work in HIV Yes, we tried to bridge the gap. I went back because I feel my limitations. I went back to school. I had my master in health policy. I'm trying to find an answer for how to bridge the gap between what is available and how to help the marginalized community to integrate to the American society. I'm still learning how to see it. How can we find solution for that?
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Ahmed Saeed. I born in Pakistan, in Punjab province, in countryside area. In the province, is a very small town. It's called Kamalia. My mother never went to school, and my father is highly educated person. He was working as a district coordination officer. That is considered one of the most top management position in Pakistan. Like, he was one of the top 100 people in the country. Now he is retired. I got my education in Pakistan. I graduated in psychology and political science. Then I did my master in public administration. And I started my work as a social worker with the NGO sector, grassroots level NGOs. And I have 7 years working experience with different NGOs. Later on I joined UNDP, United Nations Development Program, as a trainer. And I have been working with USAID, with Canadian International Development Agency in Pakistan at key level positions. But I started work as a social worker that has been converted into change maker. And right now I have the European Commission fellowship, 18 months fellowship in Italy. From September 2008 until now I am in Italy. And right now I am writing my dissertation in Italy. So this is just what I do. And later on we can share how I arrive here.
My name is Murilo Mosqueta. I'm from Brazil, and I'm 31 years old. And at 31 years old, I was doing well for what Brazilian standard is. It means that I was working in my office as a psychologist. I had my apartment, my house. I was happily partnered with a man that I love very much. And I feel that my life was going very well, but it was not enough in a certain way that I still cannot explain. I was doing my PhD, starting, and then I had this opportunity to come and study part of it here in New Hampshire. So I took this scholarship. I left my apartment, my partner, my job, my clients, family, and many other things to spend 1 year here working on my PhD in psychology. And my interest is studying how sexual diversity is included in the public health contest in Brazil. I work with a healthcare unit back in Brazil, and I am trying to think with them and organize with them a way to respond better to the needs of these patients. And at the same time, I had the opportunity to know and to learn about the work of the Insight Institute from a friend. And I thought that in a certain way it would help me to figure out how I can put my ideas in a more challenging and revolutionary way. And so far is what I can
Saliha Baba. I'm originally from India, born and brought up in New Delhi, and then I lived in Mumbai, or as I call it, still Bombay, which is, we can get into it why. And I trained as a social worker in India. And I feel I've been on a journey. I'm still on this journey. So I think I'm coming to terms with that it will always be a journey. A friend of mine once said, Saliha, you're never going to be satisfied. So just accept that. First I took it as, what? You're my friend and you're saying you're never going to be satisfied? And then I thought, oh, she's actually complimenting me on this journey of discovery. I'm like, okay, I can live with that. And so that's what brings me here, which is to New York. I came to the US for my PhD in marriage and family therapy. I went to Houston to do my doctoral internship. And I've been immersed in postmodern ideas since probably 93, but depending on how you define postmodernism, I would say since I was born, because of my family and how we think. I was born and raised as a Muslim, but there was all these discourses about what it means to be Muslim, and we have 3 PhDs in our house. So if you think about it, and we're primarily a female household, just the contrast of women don't get education or they're subjugated, and those notions of religion and how religion might be constructed about the role of women, and you look at my own family, it's very different. And my father is more the, what would be typically called a housewife or house husband, and my mom is always being like, I'm in my books, don't disturb me, and I'm like, oh, I have to cook lunch? Oh, and then she'll burn up the bread and be like, okay, you're not cooking lunch anymore. So I've grown up with those stories, and I think, I've never said this before, but maybe those stories have something to do with what I consider postmodern, which is life isn't what you think it is, and it can be different and can be constructed, and my parents gave me that kind of a way of thinking about it without actually thinking that it's what they were doing. So my journey continues as I'm trying to figure out and coming maybe to terms with that there are always going to be contradictions. Even the work that we do, there are always paradoxes. So how do you learn to live, and how do you live in those in-between spaces? And what does that mean? So I'm here in New York after being in Houston for 11 years on a sabbatical. Again, it's just a frame I'm using to give myself permission to kind of take a break from all the work I've been doing, to do a different kind of work, which is to immerse myself into different theoretical approaches on performance. When I did my PhD, I used performative practices, and I drew on performance and wrote a chapter that later on got published in a family therapy book on performance methodology. And I've been interested in the Institute's work for a long time. But the notion of postmodernism as a label I was introduced in India, and then when I came to Virginia Tech is where I went for my PhD, the whole family therapy program was postmodern. And then I went on to Houston, which was the Houston Galveston Institute, which is the home for collaborative therapy, is all about postmodernism. My dissertation was an intern's experience of being in a postmodern environment and a researcher's experience. It's been very self-reflective and studying what postmodernism is as an insider and living that. So I don't know how to step out because I feel I keep stepping more and more into these puddles of postmodernism. In practice of how to practice these ideas, of course I do family therapy work. Done a lot of work around trauma and disaster, especially related to Katrina. And since 2005, after 9/11 happened, the states were mandated that they had to get their cities prepared. So I joined the City of Houston's team, disaster mental health team, and did a lot of work with them since 2003. And so in 2005, when Hurricane Katrina came into New Orleans, Houston stepped in, and so I've been involved with the mental health efforts there. So this is a way I think and till the last day I was leaving, the last email was pretty much about, oh, we need this training, who should we contact? I'm like, I'm leaving, so you contact so and so, and I still get an email here or there even now. So that's kind of where I am. I'm looking at postmodern ideas, especially performative practices from different theorist perspectives in the realm of trauma, identity or relational identity, and leadership, and trying to make sense of what that means. And so I have different projects I'm working on, which we can get into as we get further into this conversation. So, thank you.
My name's Baba Femi Baba Tope. I'm 45 years old, a Yoruba man from Africa with an unmistakable, unadulterated Yoruba accent, Nigerian accent. So if I'm going to make sense, if you are going to make sense of what I intend to say, I beg your pardon, you have to listen and listen attentively. Be that as it may, I lecture in the university back home being Nigeria. I teach theater arts. I also coordinate, or using a term I learned this morning, I organize a community theater group where we do obvious things, thinking about how to make our world better. An unquenchable enthusiasm for eradicating the confusion I have, the frustration I have, the uncertainty that the orthodox methodology of imparting knowledge in the university has brought on me, led me into a search for an alternative methodology with which I hope to be able to do what I do better, to teach better, to impart knowledge better in the school back home. And so my search led me on the internet, where I stumbled on ESI Institute. By and large, I gathered that that missing link, that thing that I desired so much, a radical methodology towards improving my activities as a lecturer, was somewhere hidden in the activities of the ESI Institute. And then I told myself, come what may, whatever it will take, I was going to give my body, spirit, and soul into the pursuit of this novel, this radical alternative methodology that ESI Institute was pioneering. And I wouldn't have been able to do much but for the fact that I consider myself lucky, being an individual that ESI Institute, for reasons better known to them, has invested into. So I'm standing here, I'm a product of the magnanimity, the benevolence, and of course, the fact that ESI Institute is determined to go extra mile to better our world. So I have been drafted into what I know will earn me satisfaction, fulfillment, and I've been trying also to impart knowledge back home. Well, at a convenient time, maybe we will say more. Thank you.
I can't remember now who it was or what portion of our work together. Somebody, Well, there are several nature images of what the week's been like. Mountains was one. Mountains and valleys, and another something was about I guess it was yours, the sugar cane and the sweeping, the green ocean when the wind comes through the sugar cane surrounding your city in Brazil. What could, and you don't have to go in order at all, anybody can just speak. What are some of the heights and valleys of our time together, the learning, the development, the conversations, the activities that have heights and valleys in relation to what it is that you do and care about in the world? Is that an answerable question, a response? Can you respond to that question?
Can you
The heights and, what are some of the heights and valleys of our time together? Heights and valleys. Heights, sorry. And if you can speak to, respond to that in relation to what you care about, what you're doing, what your profession is, so it's kind of a very intimately intellectual and emotional response I'm looking for. I'm usually not so direct.
Wow, I have to give a very quick response to that because I think people go to, I don't know why we go to school, but the ESI Institute has summarized it for me. You come to the ESI Institute and here we go. All you do is work together and get to learn. I think I have grown. I feel like I have moved from one level to, if there are 1,000 steps, if there can be 1,000 steps to go to anywhere, that is how far I have gotten. And in respect to what I do, I have gotten to understand, or I should use the word man, because I think that is really in context to what we do here. In respect to what I do, like I work with youth, children, these are people who have so many questions that are unbelievable, like someone would just stand up and say, oh, I'm sorry, but I have a problem. We eat people at home, as in we are cannibals, and you wonder how to start answering such a question. Another child will want to know how sweet a human being is, and another child will want to know how bitter or how bad it is. I'm very serious. This happens in Uganda because we do have people who are practicing that. So when I came here, first of all, when I experienced that kind of thing, I was like, I think this is crazy. No one should come up or out to speak in a group like this because it will cause more harm than good, really, because you never know the minds of humans. We are human and react differently to different atmospheres and everything. But when I came here, I noticed that when you talk about something, it keeps going, even when it just keeps moving to another advancement. And I think that is something that is not done in Uganda at all, at any level of education, be it grade 1 to the last grade, even at university. There are so many people who are going, that school is passing through, and they are not passing through school in Uganda. I don't know whether that statement comes out very clearly. They escort others to school up to the very end, and you do graduate with them. And the next thing, if you're asking, they don't even know what to say, where and how. So this has given me a very brilliant insight on what I can define to be called life, or understanding the world. There has been a reasoning that the world is just the way you see it, and that's how you have to live it, and you don't need to know nothing. You just have to be there, and everything will keep going when you work together. And I think that is beautiful. That is not in our society. If my community could come together and we don't, regardless of our tribe, we would do something brilliant together. I feel so sad because most of the people who come to me may be coming from my tribe. So it will take a little bit to get to know that we can communicate with each other like anybody else. Like I met Pius here. You can see how we relate really closely because he's from my tribe. If it was someone else, it would be different. You would notice that it's really different, the way we communicate, the way we talk. So that is what the East Side Institute has done for me. I'm very glad Peter told me to get to come here, because when I met Peter, he said something really funny to me. He told me, Helen, when you're going there to play, you will just play, and yeah, and then after playing, you really make sense out of it. And I'm like, actually, Peter, you know what? I needed a holiday, so. But let me tell you something really funny. I went through school, the whole of, the reason why I told you that I consider myself to be a self-made woman is because I am not someone who really wants people to feel so sorry for me, because I have made sense out of what I've gone through. I feel like if my mother was with me today, if my father was with me today, I would still be studying in college, or maybe at this age I'm supposed to be in university because I'm 23. But because my parents passed away in a car accident when I was 13, I started taking shortcuts to life. I made all the possible shortcuts you would ever think of to make sure that I get done with school. And then when I got done with school, there was another question: you need a job. So what is going on? Everyone says go to school. When you go to school, you're going to be okay. 5 years I have done telecom, and yeah, I can fix every optical fiber. So what? The question was there. Everything is like I've gone back to zero. I still need mom to call her. Oh, I need this and this, and then I had to start from there. And then an idealist says one time that if someone lives another day because you exist, that is the true meaning of success. And I'm one of the people who really wants to be successful, regardless of where I come from in Uganda. I can see it. So I was like, this is where I'm going to start. And I just started up a group. I'm like, people, you need to come. Let us talk together. We need to get this sorted, because I also, during this struggle, I also met a man. As a young girl, I had children out of this when I was 19. Luckily or unluckily, it could be both sides. I got twins. So everything was double trouble.
And double blessing.
And double blessing. Thank you. Yeah. Because there are people, you say you have twins, and I'm like, wow. And I'm like, what is wow about it? Yeah, sure. So, I hope I'm trying to answer your question, because I'm now like really.
You're being very responsive.
Efficient and effective.
Thank you. So that is what I got to like. I'm like, yes, if anything I could do to help another person is what it really means to exist. I'm like, yeah. Now what do I do? Where do I start from? And then another person, I was reading another book by Kiyosaki, and he was like, you just start where you are. And I'm like, well, this is it. And this is what the East Side Institute is also saying. You don't have to be nothing. You don't need to know anything. Just be Helen and do your thing, and everything will work. And I'm really excited with the knowledge that I've gotten to pick here, because we have a quarter or a half or 2/3 of the people that have gone through school in Uganda are jobless, and they are doing nothing about it. You find someone is 45, still in his mother's house. He tells you, I have a degree, a PhD, this, counting all of them. And then I'm like, when your birthday comes, what do you ask yourself? Do you ever get to ask yourself what you have to show for your age? That's the question. So I got this. I really felt so good watching the film yesterday. I think that was the true definition of what goes on with social therapy. We need to work together, come together. Divided we fall, united we stand. And I think that is what it totally means to be at the East Side Institute. And if I go back and put it into practice, Uganda will, starting with my small area, will become a better place, because the fact that the East Side Institute is now in Uganda, that means even where I am, it can move to a diverse position or place Thank you.
I will respond to you slowly this time. Actually, coming to the ESI Institute and get to know the meaning of development is changing my life, actually. Since I was younger, I was thinking about development. I developed differently from what is my family tells me to do. Like, I guess I want to tell you a little bit about where I come from. I come from a small town, okay, in West Sudan, which is very, very conservative. And me and my friend and my family and my cousin, all women knows their steps in life. They know they're gonna go to school, primary, and then some of them after you finish high school or before that, when you hit 15, then your family start to arrange marriage for you. And it is always your cousin, first cousin. And that's what happened to me. After I finished school, high school, I got a very high score. I was one of the best, like we say 100 in the country. I get high. And I got a scholarship to go to medical school. Not in my hometown, we don't have a medical school there. So I have to go to the middle of Sudan, to University of Al Jazeera. It has nothing to do with Al-Qaeda. It's a university. And at that time, my family came together, and my father was died like 3 years ago. And my mom was a single mother of 10. 3 of us are in college, and no one is helping mom. She has to work, she has to raise 10 kids. And at that time, my family wanted me to stay and to marry my cousin and stay in my hometown because I have to help my mom. If I have to go to medical school, although it is a scholarship, but still I will need her help. And at that I decided to go there. Most of my friends who are my age now, they graduate from college and they marry and they settle down. This is my path supposed to be. So I was always thinking like, what is the environment is for you to do is to allow you to grow and to develop certain way. To be a conservative woman and to be yourself is a disaster. You know, but I was always rebellious about anything my mom, do this, I don't do. I do things my own way. And guess what? I realized that anything I like, I do it my way, I succeed. Anything I follow other people, I fail. I got it. It didn't work for me. So I decided to go my own way, against the whole community, and against my family will, and against the world. I do things that I wanted to do. When I was in the third year of my medical school, I got an executive program to go to Spain for a month, to have an attachment at the military hospital. And it was another thing. I'm always a troublemaker in my family because I do things differently. And my family came together again and said, no, you can't. We don't have, you as a woman, you can't go alone. And to where to Spain, no way, you can do that. I worked very hard to raise money. I collected the ticket, I collected some money. I went to Madrid for 6 months, and that changed the whole mindset. I want to see what is the world looks like out of Sudan. All I know is Sudan. And all I exposed to is the one culture. A culture that is very conservative. We have all of the gender issues in there. And the culture that want me, they draw my steps in life. I have to do things, this and that and this. And you can't think differently. And when I come back, I was different. I was determined to, and Sudan is not the place for me. But at that time, I cannot go back. My mom told me, you will not live in the country again unless you have a husband. And I couldn't find anything like someone that can fit because I was rebellious, I was different. It is very hard for me to find. I'm not for an average Sudanese man, no, for a small, And I think my friend told me because you do see, I'm famous in my back home. Everybody knows me till today. Like, I asked my friend why. You're smart. No, I'm not smarter than you. You all have the same IQ, I think. But she said, I do things differently. I do what I think is right, and then I bear the consequences. You don't. You play it safe. You go with the flow. I don't. And when I went back, when I graduated, I worked at the military hospital. It's the first time I know that we don't have a civil war for 60 years, and this civil war is is bad. And at that time, I work and I have to take care of some soldiers. And lecture. The world was full. And every time our boss asked us not to leave tonight because we expected like thousands. And among these thousands, some of them from different, not from North Sudan, and that will be neglected. You see them dying, and no one's taking care of them. And I try to do my best. That's when I know that there's injustice, even if you go with the government and fight, if you get hurt, they're not taking care of you. This is one of the, I think this is the thing of the inequality and injustice. And then I see the women situation in Sudan, and the women, most of them, they do have the good potential to grow and to be who they are, and to be and to play a better role in the community, and to develop in the personal level, and to help their country as a whole to develop. But they don't have the right environment to grow. So coming to the International Institute now, I know that I was right about to be myself. Even though I consider a big failure in the community. I'm not married, I'm not having the career that I'm expecting to have, but I think what is my big accomplishment in the US after almost 7 years here? I think yes, I learned to be myself and to develop to be who I am, and not feeling oppressed or feeling or I be regretting that, I thought what I saw, if I marry my cousin and I stay there, I always be regretting that if I wish I'm not happy. I feel like I would be better off if I just follow my dreams and go to America and do what I want to do.
I'm going to throw another question in which other people can either respond to the one I said before or this. What? I'm going to ask this question. It's something to do with the United States or with New York City, because that's what you're seeing. What have you learned about poverty and other injustices of America through being in the program, this week with us, and also being around New York? Because I think that, and obviously, and how we work on development, given the kind of injustice and oppression that is in the U.S., which is a whole different level from the countries that you're talking about.
So you're asking how seeing or how learning about poverty here?
Yeah, if that's something, if what I said speaks to your experience in any way while you're here, and if that may or may not have something to do with what you are doing at home.
I don't know if it goes in this direction, but I was thinking about the heights and the valleys.
The heights and valleys, yeah.
And it's just something that's not working. The metaphor is not working. Because I was thinking about the highest moments, and I was realizing how deeply I feel in the valley. And I was thinking about in the valley and realizing how intense these difficult moments were for me and how much I could learn from them. So it's not working to separate just two things. But I think that my experience here is like coming to a place that demands almost nothing. It doesn't ask for much. Like, you come the way you can. But at the same time, it's very demanding. And what I told you, I work with sexual diversity. And I think that what I had this week was an intense experience of being into diversity in a way that I'm sure I've never lived before. And I am really aware of, and I'm happy of how much it cost. It cost me a lot. This week was extremely consuming in terms of the effort I had to do to be able to be in such a diverse environment. But it was also very transformative. So I think it relates a lot with what I am trying to do back home. And the hardest part, and that's come the poverty, was to realize that I was trained in a culture where criticism and critical thinking is a good thing. And I do believe it is. But the hardest part is when I realized that there is also a lot of skepticism. Like, I became skeptical, and I do not want to be skeptical, because being skeptical is a very poor position in life. And I don't know how much skepticism is a poverty in America, but it certainly is something that I have to do with myself.
Well, once again, say something, and I would simply, because in this place we have been told to speak little, but play much, or perhaps perform more. The heights and values, and of course, the experience I've had of the injustices in New York State. And indeed, there are heights and there are valleys. I will be looking good into the auditorium, talking about the heights, but I shall not look this way when I will talk about the valleys, so that I will be confident to talk about the valleys. The heights first. Back home, I discovered that the teaching methodology is failing if it does not completely fail. The teacher is made to have this impression that he is a bank of knowledge. He comes prepared in code, because even the books are not there in a library, neither are they there in the bookshop. So the notes my professor gave me 25 years ago, I dust them and then prepare my own notes also to give my students. And I come with this false impression that I know it all, and all the students are either fools or imbeciles. So when I begin to teach them, they are also very tense and serious. They want to make sure they get every word, whether correct or wrong, written. And it takes about 3 months for a semester. We conduct tests, and at the end of the semester we conduct examination, and they try to pass by attempting all crooked ways, bringing prepared answers to cheat from or copy from their friends, meaning that those things, those notes they are taking, they just took them or taking them safe. Otherwise, why would you take notes that you cannot replicate without bringing it in or hiding textbooks? So it occurred to me, even before I became aware of this institute, that something was wrong. Then I was forced to think about this situation, which I will quickly share with you. when people gather under the tree outside and they gossip, idle talk, they don't take notes, not 1 minute. But years after the idle talk, they are able to remember what they have discussed, even with embellishments. How come that that does not happen in the classroom? So I find myself thinking about a methodology that I call under tree gossip methodology. What I discovered that to be is that while they are gossiping, so to say, there is no tension. They are actually playing. They are performing. And I thought that I would need to henceforth create that atmosphere in the classroom. But how to do it, I didn't know. Other than I would come to classroom, crack jokes, make them less tense, and so also drag them into a kind of conversation which I wasn't also too sure about. I just knew that I needed to bring into the classroom the under tree, relaxed atmosphere. I wasn't getting fulfillment until, as I told you, I ran on net into ESI Institute, and there is a word we call performatory. Performatory meaning that we can actually create together. I didn't immediately understand what they were saying, but I knew that I needed to. And ever since I came to performing the word, where I thought was just an academic conference where I would have my paper published for promotion exercise, but unfortunately, my paper wasn't there published. I ended up doing a play and it was uploaded. When I got back home, I saw my play on the internet. I became more popular at home. So I saw that which I had longed for, first and foremost, to do what I'm doing better. Because except if I saw myself doing it well, I would not have fulfillment. Except if those that I have the opportunity of teaching to get it right, I would not also have fulfillment. One great height of the ESI Institute was that in that line, I became organized. It gave me focus. It gave me direction. And now I've been able not only to feel fulfilled, but to think that what I'm doing in my classroom is well done. I had the opportunity of meeting a most eminent lady. Unfortunately, I didn't know she was a lady until I got here. Carrie Lover. I got the unscripted learning and I read it through and through. So when we met on, she was introducing herself to us on the internet, I said, I most likely know your statement that you do that. I've read your book through and through. And they have been helping me. A plus, one of the eyes of this place. One other thing I discovered, forgive me if I say that, the duo, Melissa and Louis, to me, are more like robots than human beings. Robots. And Louis.
I'm more like robots.
Robots than human beings. I'll tell you what I mean. When you send them emails, before you say Jack Robinson, 10 replies have come. And wonder how don't they sleep? How come these people have all the time in the world to respond to you? And this significant non-entity back home. And when you read between the lines, you feel that they've known you all their lives. Something about the way they will write will make your head swell that you are important after all. You know, as if that which you are doing, keep on doing it, the skies cannot even limit your rising. There is a passion with which they communicate to you and you think, man, I'm also important. And I've discovered that is something I can also put into my own ways of life. Not to discredit anybody, not to despise the little beginning, not to imagine that because you are a Nigerian and most of the time the spellings of English you write are incorrect, that you can't make it. These people built me up, they gave me an impression that regardless of the fact that we have never met, there's something in you that will give you the push, you will influence your generation. One of the eyes. There are numberless factors. When you are also fortunate enough to tell these people what your inadequacies have, there is always something in them for you to lift you up. And that also I have carried them, and people are getting, people are getting ministered to back home. So those things they've done to me, they don't know that they are doing to hundreds of people back home. I will say more about the eyes. There are quite many and numberless. The valleys. And I'm going to turn away from Louis to say the valleys. The unfortunate thing about my interaction with this institute, forgive me and permit me to say, is that it is absolutely impossible for me to move my university to Manhattan and begin to live there for heaven. If I have the opportunity of relocating and 24/7, 24 hours a day, sit and learn what they have to give me, then there would have been any negative thing at all. And one of the important things is that the weather here is freezing cold. Yesterday it wasn't really tricky for me at all. Those are the two negative things. And they talk about the things I've noticed within the week. And this is really a sad one. At the subway, I see underage girls pushing their babies, their own daughters, underage. By the special grace of God, I have a 17-year-old daughter. And I can tell this August, most eminent Americans that she's not sexually active. That's my own daughter. But outside the community where we live too, there are so many of such underage people getting pregnant, and but I never thought this type of a thing was happening in the United States of America, in New York, a city where we regard as God's own country, where everything is perfect. But I saw the reality of and I realized that also there is a complete, forgive me, I'm not being a racist, on the development of people like the people where I always pass through Utica, and that's where a lot of them are. People will sleep up in the underground. People will do all manner of things, and then you wonder, are these people, these black people I'm seeing, do they know Manhattan? Do they know Broadway? Can they go into Chinese restaurants and eat and all that? And when you see on their faces, disillusionment. And I tell you, when we say something where I come from, that however poor an Oyibo man is, he will have shoes to wear. Meaning that poverty here doesn't mean that you don't have shoes. You don't have houses to live, because poverty in our own Nigeria is a monster. You can actually be naked. But here people have shoes to wear. But what about the poverty of development? What about the poverty of lack of self-esteem? What about the poverty of disillusionment, not knowing what will happen to you tomorrow? This is there. But also, I found that the ESI Institute is co-founder of All Star Project, where efforts directed at catching those people young, believing that when a young fellow is captured and given the opportunity to actualize himself, he will impart knowledge around. I'm happy to be part of the ESI Institute.
Floor's open.
I had a question, kind of off of Lois's question, and what we've been saying. question. There's a lot happening in the U.S. now, and we've been involved, and many other people have been involved in addressing some of these issues, and also in changing the relationship of the U.S. to the rest of the world. And obviously, Obama's being elected president is an important step, but also very controversial here, and particularly in the last several months. And I was wondering what the Obama presidency, what's happening here, means to, well, to you, and what you could tell us about what that looks like from where you're coming from, if you wish.
I want to start. When Obama elected as president, I was here in U.S., but I see the response from the Middle East. I have an interesting background. My mom is Turkish, my dad is from Darfur, and I'm Muslim. I'm from West Sudan, but I grew up in some of it in West Sudan, and I moved to North Sudan. It's a kind of multicultural. Especially the Obama, the election, it has an impact in all of the Middle East. And that is, we have now normalization of the relationship with the American. Actually, especially for us, for Muslim in the Arabic world, we used to have they are anti-American in the sense that they occupied Iraq and they are dominating the world. Now the world has one big power, great power in the world, and because of the different ideology, and this is and between the Islam and Christianity and stuff like that. Especially the biggest impact that Obama have in his speech in Egypt about the normalization, the relationship, and the new face of America. That has a big impact especially in my country now. People are less, they don't they have normal feeling, and especially in relation to the Darfur issue, we're not so happy with that because normalization, the relationship, and takes the Sudan as the president of Sudan off the list. This is not helping the conflict in Darfur actually. And actually what they're trying to do that is to have a Christian state in South Sudan. Actually, they are splitting the country into two parts. And to normalize the relationship with Sudan, that means the ICC arrest warrant against Omar Bashir is not taking place. So we are lost in the middle, and it's like the issue of Darfur is lost in the middle. So it's good and bad for us.
I would like to respond your question also, and I will try to correlate also the previous questions as much as possible. I belong to Pakistan, and the country is facing two biggest problems: terrorism and war against terrorism. And being a Pakistani, we have been facing and we are still facing lot of issues in our daily lives that people in Europe and USA and Western world, I think number of people, they can't imagine that what's going on there. And your television channels, CNN and BBC that you are watching are always different in New York, London, Tokyo and Pakistan. I think all broadcasting is different. The CNN that I was watching in Italy, that I was watching in Pakistan, that I am watching in New York, it's entirely different with each other. We have been lot of expectations with the last election, and Obama's presidency and Obama-led administration is still motivation or expectation for us, for Pakistanis, that somebody do something for peace instead of violence against violence and violence over violence. But like other societies, we are facing more problems of divided society, and there is lot of groups who are trying to determine that what they want to do. Taliban, anti-Taliban, religious, anti-religious, and I don't know how much you know about Taliban, but in Pakistani community, being a Pakistani, the phenomena of Taliban is entirely different with phenomena of religion. It doesn't have any correlation. That is, I'm watching in the last 7 days in New York, that the Taliban and Islam is going together something. It is totally different, and especially this day before yesterday's event. Just to let you visualize, I born in the family that I told you, and I got twice National Poetry Competition Award. And I got lot of awards and scholarships in my life. But before coming here, I started my travel from Venice, from Italy. And I was thinking that, would it worth to go to New York? I never dreamed to go to New York. I dreamed only once when WTC collapsed. I dreamed that I should see this before it collapsed. In first time in my life, I dreamed that time that, oh man, you should see this. It has collapsed now. So, first time in my life. After that, I had only one wish, that I should go to ground zero, that I went today. That I should go to ground zero and see what happened there. Being Pakistani, being Muslim, I should not have any correlation with this. But I am just telling you that what is the common man. I am the common man in the country. And when I started my travel, I thought that would it work or not. And this last 6 days, 144 hours I think so, I spent in East Side. And I never believed overnight change. But in these 6 days, I have seen poverty, social injustice, richness, intellectualism. Being a poet, I have a long list of words of positive terminologies, but what I want to say, that starting from the scratch, and when you feel like you are learned enough and you have enough knowledge, and suddenly you have to forget everything, and you have to start as a child. It's not an easy task. But I experienced this. I think it's a wonderful enjoyment. If you start as a child and learning new things, and learning by doing and learning by playing. I was thinking in my aeroplane that maybe I have to talk on some philosophical issues. I have 8 international papers published in international journals. I was thinking on the same way. But when I arrived here, and I was thinking, when I was receiving emails, and I agree with this man that I am receiving emails like auto-response. Really. Like auto-response. Just to send email and you get it. I was thinking that these 7 days, the Louis is a director, and she is supposed to meet with us at the last day. It happens in number of training events. I am traveling all over the world. A number of training events, international events. It happens that director usually meets with the participants at the end of the day, ceremony and something. And on Monday, I saw one woman, mild, very facilitating and almost quiet, and I was thinking like she is some sort of training coordinator or something. and she will introduce like Lewis is a personality, and she will come, like she will portray about Lewis son. She didn't say anything about Lewis. And maybe if it is too long, I can short it. So I didn't hear anything about Lewis. 2 hours, my mind was conflicted. What's going on? Who is she? And what about Lewis? So there was, I mean, I cannot tell you in 5 or 10 minutes this 144 hours journey. And I just want to tell you one phrase that I created by myself. Like, it's 144 journey. It was a journey in the mountains of the learning, and every mountain has different colors of learning, and every learning comes with different concepts, and each concept brought me into different positions. That's my just own feelings. Thank you.
Time for one more. Esther?
Please, ma'am, if you want to the Obama issue, the question has been raised.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
But I'm not sure how we, okay, Obama. Well, what I can say, so when you ask that question, I immediately think of what the people in Venezuela and what the President Chavez has been saying, or the government at the moment has been saying about the United States as you are all the United States. Like there's just the one United States that is Bush, the imperialistic power dominating and creating suffering in the world. And that's what it was being said, even at the level of people who I thought, how come you are relating to a country and to a government as if all the people are that government and that ideology? And that, in each debate, and it was almost every day on the table, it was every day on the TV, prior to Obama, this discussion about imperialism, creating forces, coalitions that were opposing to that, and resisting. And this has been very much the focus, one of the major focus of Chavez policy and government. And of course, there's been wonderful things definitely that have come from creating solidarity in the Caribbean between other countries and between even the countries that speak English, because we're next to Guyana and we're not relating as countries that have the same interests. And then we have in South America this fire that started again somehow. It's all getting back at the democratic election, which is remarkable, of alternative leaders. For the first time you had, well, Chavez in Venezuela certainly has been not only a problem because of the way his politics and the way he speaks, but also the way who he is. He is a man who's mixed race, a very strong indigenous background, and comes not from the elite and the educated line of presidents that we have had, but he comes from the land, when I mean the land is, the land. He's someone who went to military and got all his education through that. I was there when the first riots happened that Chavez, we had a coup d'etat. And I remember him, somehow they were able to come on TV, I don't know how they did it, and they say, for now, we can't change anything. He was in jail for 10 years or more, and people were working almost, I would say underground. How would you call this again? Clandestine. I mean, nobody said we were going and having meetings, and people were organizing everywhere to support this movement. And it became a famous phrase for now. So Chavez happened. Huge transformation, huge shift. But we're still looking at it. What is it? What's going on? It's still unraveling. We have very complex situations at this point in time, 2009, in the world, period. It's very complex. It's not black and white anymore. So then we have a woman in Chile elected president. Wow. In South America, sexist by tradition. It's not Evita Perón, coming from a dictator saying this. It's a woman elected by the people. We have another woman elected in Argentina. Wow. And she's absolutely glamorous too. Have you seen her? It's just like, and the way she talks, what she's doing with the people. And then we have an indigenous person in Ecuador completely there. So we have this fire that's taking over. And then we have a Jesuit elected in Uruguay, Paraguay. Did you know about this? And we were talking about it last night. A Jesuit president elected. He's been working with the people, the social justice sector. People elected him. So I am asking myself, I haven't been to Venezuela. I'm going to be there now for about it's going to be next year. I'm going to be there for quite a while. I'm really curious how the discourse is shifting. Now we cannot talk about the United States as the United States as a thing, like a massive monster or whatever. I wonder how that is changing in the public discourse. How are we creating solidarity, recognizing there's actually all these people here too who are not necessarily adjoining to the powers that have been dominating for all this time. So I am really, really, really curious because it's a challenge for us. Oh, how are we going to see the enemy now? How are we going to see the enemy? And I think that's a really wonderful question that is on the table for all of us. How do we create solidarity across borders? How do we humanize each other? So in a way, it's quite wonderful to see that this is happening in the Americas, and I would call it the Americas, not South America, Central, but in the whole continent. I can't wait until Canada gets on board. Boy, But that's a response to you in a way, of course, limited. And then my just a quick response, and I would love to, let me see. What I'm really working on is on this idea that performance is a tool for creating life. For me, is it's been life affirmative to be in this program. It's been, as everyone has said, as particularly in the video, when you talked about the challenge of, we can say, yes, we're for diversity. Well, boy, be in diversity and find out how for you are for it. And how patience becomes an act of love within this, and an act of learning. Love as learning too, or learning as love, both. And my work is, I'm really focusing on how to create performance as a form of creating life of people who have lost their loved ones by organized political oppression, and they're missing. And we don't have them anymore. And we never had a proper burial. We never even had the bodies. So I asked this question before to the group, and I asked it to Lois from the very beginning. How can one create community and a sense of, how can one create a meaningful project, like even go there and create a community when you are moving through borders? But this is unifying is this, I think the pain and the loss is not limited by the border. So what I'm trying to say is that the pain of the people in Argentina is as close as the people in some of us in Venezuela who never had our bodies back because of political organized oppression. So this idea of performance as a tool for creating life is calling to those lives that we're taking brutally away from us, and continues to happen. Continues, it's happening right now. So I am really, I guess, dedicated to find, and this is why I'm here. And I remember saying to Louis, I really need this community. I don't know them, but I know I need them. I don't know you, I know I need this. And it has, it's true. I just want to finish with part of one of the projects that's been going on in Venezuela is this idea of recovering history. So we have had this in South America quite a bit, and I can just imagine that we have to do this in the Middle East, and we have to do this in Palestine. Anthropological archaeology, where people, I talked to one of my uncles and he said, we can go and I think we can find the site where your father is, the remains. So it is an act of calling for life, and it's a performance. So in that sense, being here has been quite life affirmative of that continuous creation of life by honoring the life that's been there